Welcome back to the O Hockey Show, you beautiful people. But today you might notice something. You might notice that there's a little bit more darkness in the air because that is, of course, the night edition of the O Hockey Show. I got to step in closer for you to see me. Ooh. Anyways, today we have to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. Now today, my main series of the worst contracts right now, and they're each team's best player, and somehow the Flyers is the team that the two crossed each other on the X and Y axis. So here we are to talk about them today, so let's jump into it. So Travis Konecny, 16 goals, 36 assists, 52 points last year. He's number one on the list because he led the team in points last year. 52 points. Now Travis Konecny is one of those guys that you like on your team. He's never going to do like anything. He kind of reminds me of Tomas Hertl, where he has his moments through the season where you're like, wow, this guy's great. But the thing about guys like him and Travis Konecny, Tomas Hertl, guys like that, they're definitely second-line guys or potentially first-line guys. And they will never have a super stud of a season, but they will never really have a bad season. You know what I mean? Like, they will always be in, like, the 50s to 60s range, maybe into the 70s once in a while. Maybe, like, that's their best season. But they will never dip down and go to, like, the 30s or something, or as long as, like, everything's okay. And that's kind of what these guys remind me of. 16 goals, 36 assists, 52 points. That's kind of what, like, Tomas Hertl gets. He kind of is always in, like, the 60s. Like, that is kind of who they remind me of. And Travis Konecny is one of those good guys that you want on your team. You want those type of guys on your team, but he's not really going to be the star of your team. So moving on from that guy to the guy that you think should be the star of your team is Sean Couturier. Now, he's really emerged in the last few years, but, well, a few years ago, he kind of emerged out of the wings of guys like Claude Giroux, and he kind of made a name for himself like, I am probably the number one guy here, not Giroux anymore. And you're right, and the reason why I usually put, like the name and then the big numbers for their stats. But Sean Couturier last year barely played any hockey, so I didn't really have any stats to put up, and it wouldn't make sense to put stats from the year before. So Sean Couturier gets a little spot, and Couturier is a really great guy. He's a good player. He's one of those solid guys, kind of like a Mark Stone type, where it's like he is the type of guy that does get high points, but he's not going to really steal you the show with his dazzling skill. You know what I mean? Like, he will get the job done, and that's kind of what he does. And you can give him credit for that. I mean, he does good at his job, and Couturier is one of those. He's a good guy to mold a line around, and that's what you want on your team. But the thing about Couturier is not really like a skill super guy, right? He's kind of just like get the job done like a Ryan O'Reilly. Just like, I am the guy, I'm going to win us the game. And that's kind of what he reminds me of, if that means anything to anybody out there. But you can kind of get the point I'm trying to get across, is that Sean Couturier, he's one of those just solid guys. He's never going to wow you. Of course he can wow you. Any player that's really good in the NHL can wow you. But you know what I mean? He's not going to be like Patrick Kane out there or McDavid or something. He's going to be like Mark Stone, get the job done type of deal. So Sean Couturier, great. But let's move on to guy who had the second best amount of points for the team he was on, Cam Atkinson, with 23 goals, 27 assists, 50 points. Now, 23 goals is second on the team, right behind a guy I'll get to, but 27 assists for 50 points. Cam Atkinson was brought in from Columbus, and I think it was a good move. I think Cam Atkinson, he brings like a speed, he brings kind of like a skill. He's another one of those guys that, like, once again, kind of like a Konecny. Like, this guy will never get like superstar points, but he will score goals. 23 goals, not bad. He might get to like a 30-something goals in his career, especially being on the Flyers, that'll be kind of hard to do. But Cam Atkinson, this is kind of what you asked for in a guy like Cam Atkinson. 50 points, 23 goals. The assist number, once again, could go up. He had some better guys around him to score some more goals, and that's kind of the thing with goal scorers like Cam Atkinson, is that he's looking to score goals, and he needs those guys to pass the puck to if he wants to get those assists up. But he's not really looking for that. He's looking to score goals, and that's why. And on this team, that number could go up, and I could see if he had better guys around him, I could see that number being up and probably his goals as well. And I think his best potential on a team like the Flyers would probably be like 60 to 70 points, I feel. But 50 points isn't bad for Cam Atkinson. But let's move on to the guy that has the second most amount of points for last season, but not with the Flyers, and that is Tony DeAngelo. Love him or hate him, you can't admit that he is a tremendous player. This guy, if it wasn't for his wrongdoings, or whatever you want to call it, Tony DeAngelo is an amazing player. He's an amazing player, especially in the playoffs for the Hurricanes last year. 10 goals, 41 assists. Now, of course, isn't like the coolest number in the world, but 51 points, I mean, not bad for a defenseman at all, and especially a defenseman who's trying to get his name back together. Now, it will be hard. I don't see him getting back to those numbers this year, especially with how the Flyers are organized. I don't see him getting back to that number, especially in assists. In goals, maybe I could see that going up because he has to grind for himself a little bit more, but 41 assists, I don't see that happening. But if he gets to like 15 goals and let's say 30 assists, I could see that happening. Or maybe even less, because the Flyers are really bad at scoring goals altogether. So, Tony DeAngelo, I think, is an amazing guy. Amazing, amazing, amazing defenseman. Whether you love him or hate him, you can admit his craft. And that's one thing I feel like people don't always do, especially knowing wrestling and certain guys like Chris something or another. You can admit they're a terrible person, but you have to respect that their craft was amazing. And that's the thing with Tony and Angelo. Now let's move on to the little guy names. So the little names here I got is Carter Hart. And Carter Hart, I mean, what an interesting goaltender. From being like built up to be a great, great goalie, and then he fell, and then he started to show that he was good again, which is kind of the case for the Flyers. So can you blame a guy that the Flyers have always had terrible luck when it came to goaltenders? And maybe it's not the goalie's fault. Maybe it's just the fact that they're not very good defensively and overall as a team. And I don't really blame Carter Hart. However, I don't think Carter Hart is really the type of guy that I've never trusted in him. He is, sure, every goaltender has some great saves, but he's never really seemed to be the goaltender to keep to win his team a game. And I've never put my trust in Carter Hart, but maybe some people have still. Maybe there's still. I mean, I think there's still hope. I think Carter does have the potential, but he hasn't really grabbed my name right now. Like a guy like Jake Ottinger, I'm like, yes, I would put all my money into him. He's my goalie if I would lock him down on my team without a doubt. Carter Hart, I think he just needs more development, and I think it sucks that he's in a team like Philadelphia that is a bigger name in the league and also is always under a lot of scrutiny, and especially Philadelphia Flyers fans in general being a little bit more peeved about things than other fan bases. So I feel like he just has a lot of things going against him than he should. But yeah, that's how I feel like Carter Hart. And now let's go to the guy that led the team in goals last year, and I talked about earlier for one of the worst deals, is James Van Reems. Like JVR, he led the team in goals last year with 24, but I think he only had 17 assists or something. Yeah, I think 17 because that's 31. I think. Yeah, sure, why not? Whatever. The thing about guys like JVR is that, once again, he is a goal scorer. He is the guy to be that final guy on your line to be the goal scorer. He would be perfect for a guy like Johnny Hockey or something, right? Like, just feed the puck to him, kind of like Patrick Laine. You can't be mad at a guy that he is there to get the goals. However, can you name the guy that gets your team the goals the best player? I don't know. So, and for this video, usually I crown the best player of each team with the green marker of greatness, but because we are in the night edition of the O Hockey Show, I've got the black marker of darkness. So, let's see here. Now, for me personally, I feel like you can wipe out a guy like... You can wipe out Carter Hart because he isn't going to prove himself. He's not going to be... And even if he is good this year, I don't think he's good enough to really be crowned the best player of your team. So I'm going to say Carter Hart wiped out. James Van Reems, like, he can be the guy that scores your goals and be the #1 goal scorer guy. But, where was I? I was here. Okay, so yes, Carter Hart, you can wipe him out. James Van Reems, like... If you are talking about a guy like Alex Ovechkin, that's going to score you goals but also be good at getting points, then obviously, sure. But James Van Reems, like, he doesn't bring anything else other than scoring goals for his team, so Van Reems is like, eh. So, we move on to a guy like Tony DeAngelo. Does DeAngelo have what it takes to be, I would say, best defenseman? So, sure, keep him around. Cam Atkinson, I would say he's more well-rounded and more useful than a guy like Travis Konechny. So, to Konechny. Sean Couturier, I feel like, is the obvious answer. There goes the marker. The obvious answer to give the star to. But because he kind of missed last year, and personally, I don't really care about Sean Couturier, between Cam Atkinson and Tony DeAngelo, I've got to give it to my man, Tony D. I mean, Tony DeAngelo, love him or hate him, is a tremendous hockey player. With the Rangers, he showed that he could have won the Calder that year, or at least the Norris, but all that stuff, they couldn't give it to him. So him making his name for himself, and maybe with a team like with John Tortorella, I think he will be their number one defenseman. And personally, for me, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, I value very good defenseman more than a good forward, unless, well, I guess depending on the forward. But a useful, very good useful, and good defenseman is way more useful than a good forward. So, that is all I have to say about the Philadelphia Flyers and who their best player is. So, that is all I have to say. So, if you like this video, please go down below and hit that red. Can you see that? It's the Coyotes. You know it's red. That red subscribe button, and please click on that for your free subscription. If you liked the video, leave a like, not a dislike, but go down below to the comment section and tell me how stupid I am for liking Tony DeAngelo, because how dare I? But if you agree with me, then say that too and tell me whatever. But if you say stupid things about me, then I can say that you just were listening to me. So tell me all stupid things down below, and I'll know you're playing along. You silly gooses out there. Yes, so do all that. And until next time, I've been your dapperly dressed host, Owen. And until next time, I hope you have an amazing, good night, sweet dreams. And until next time, mwah, love you, and ta-ta, too sweet, and ta-ta for now.